So I want to talk about immigration. And immigration is such a massive subject. And I've spent the last 3 weeks reading, watching videos, watching news, watching everything. And it becomes painfully obvious that nobody wants to talk about the facts. Nobody wants to talk about how difficult we really make it. No one wants to talk about how many we allow legally. I have not yet found a single newspaper article, a single trope, one of these other internet people that wants to yammer, like Alex P. Shitbag, who, you remember him, my favorite Sandy Hook shitbag. And no one wants to say how much we allow legally. No one. 3 weeks of nonstop research in this subject. No one wants to tell us how many we allow in legally. They will tell you that we should be allowing somewhere between 5 and 15%. The United States economy depends on it. We are 336 million. We need at least 5% just to handle the jobs that Americans don't want to do. And we are the most, quote unquote, ingenious country in the world. Why? Because we are inherently lazy. Laziness breeds ingenuity. Tell me I'm wrong. You can't. So, none of us want to work as maids. Some of us might. You may have to work as a maid, and God bless you if you are. But none of us as a whole want to do those jobs that nobody wants to be a chicken plucker. Certainly the Koch brothers and their 5 plants in Alabama found that out real quick when they got raided. And I also want to talk about that, right? A lot of you were screaming, why wasn't that HR manager arrested? Why weren't the Koch brothers arrested? Oh, some little thing called Verify. Not every illegal immigrant in this country is actually here illegally. They don't tell you that, though, do they? No. We don't talk about those things. We sure as shit don't talk about the history behind it. Now, this will not be a history lesson. This will be the quick crux of what you guys are going to get in the next few videos. We're going to find out why we're not letting in 5 to 15%. Why aren't we? We're not. I promise you that. Legally, we only allow 1 million in a year. And over half of those must come in sponsored on an American, their family visas or secondary family visas, and they are only given with an American citizen sponsoring. Natural born. There are some that can get authorized if you're a naturalized citizen, but for the most part, in order for you to get one of those, over half, 600,000 of the 1 million, you must have a natural born American citizen sponsor you, because they already have to be a citizen to sponsor you in the first goddamn place. And the naturalization process is supposed to take somewhere around 3 years, but it takes anywhere from 6 to 10. For some people, it can take as long as 20. What? It can't be that difficult. Hell yeah, it is. Yes. Yes, they have to get in front of an immigration judge. And that takes months, unless you want to pay for a lawyer who can somehow get you in the docket faster. If you can't afford a lawyer at $20,000 to $40,000 a pop, and that's the shitty immigration lawyer. The best ones are going to cost you in the, $50,000 just to get you to look at them. Does it sound unfair? I don't know if I'd call it fair. Of course, I have a biased opinion. There's an American in this country that can come here with an immigration status. Right? Oh, I know, you guys are, I came over on the Mayflower, and I saw a joke that, oh yeah, okay. England didn't send their best. They sent the people they didn't want. Doesn't sound like bragging material right there. If you came over in the Mayflower, they didn't want you. They wanted you to die, preferably over here, because they didn't know what to do with all the bodies there. We allow just over 1 million a year illegally. And about 20 to 30% of that does not get used. Because the courts can't keep up with the 1,055,000 or some bullshit like that. Huh? And 60% of those must have an American citizen sponsor. And I'm not talking work visas. Work visas are sponsored by the company, by the location that they have. And it's filled out by company attorneys. All of those immediate family, spouse, children, they account for 45%. Another 10% is secondary family, parents, grandparents, wife's parents, spouse's parents, husband's parents, that type of stuff. Siblings of your spouse. So it's a slow thing. And if they make up over half, they make up 60%. You're like, oh, well, that still allows 400,000, right? Let's get to the nuts, because all you guys want is know how many asylum seekers we authorize. 6% with a maximum of 13. And that's set by executive order. So it could be a lot less or a lot more. That's right. So we only authorize maybe if they're lucky, maybe we let in 100,000, maybe. Wow, that's a lot. Is it? If you live in a small town, that's a lot. If you live in a big city, you just went. If you live in LA or and the surrounding area, if you live between LA and San Diego, you just went 100,000. That's nothing. And that's only assuming they can get in front of a judge. Because until they get in front of a judge, they can't work. They're here until they get in front of a judge. Somebody has to help them work. So a lot of those people that you think are illegal and not able to work, and that are like sitting outside your Home Depot hoping that you pay them $10 an hour under the table for doing some work for you for that day. Those folks are here legally 9 times out of 10. They've been authorized until their paperwork is done, until they get in front of a judge. Now here's the priceless part about this. They are here legally. They don't have a green card yet. I'm not sure how exactly that works, but they don't have one that's not authorized. They get an authorization of some sort to live here until their court date. They can't leave the country once they get that. That's another crust of all this. They can't leave. Once they get immigration to allow them to stay to see a judge in the first place, they are not allowed to leave. Nobody tells us that, do they? They can't leave. Even if they get a green card. If they get a green card, they get in front of a judge, and the judge authorizes them. They got all their paperwork right. And they paid a lawyer $20,000, or they managed to get all that paperwork in triplicate correctly, and I'm talking. They can't leave. They legally are not allowed to leave our country again until they become naturalized citizens. They have to get the court's agreement. Once they get a green card and they are able to work in this country, they can leave to go on vacation, to go visit family for a couple weeks at a time. But they have to check in with the immigration office. They have to make sure that they are approved to leave the country. And they have to come back at the time specified. They can't extend their vacation like you or I. We go, oh, well, we're going to Bahamas. And then we go, you know what? We're going to change our flights. We're going to spend another week. No, they cannot do that. They have to become citizens before they can pull that kind of crap. They can't leave. If they are legal and they have a family member that died, their mom died, and they want to go back to Eastern Europe for her funeral, they have to get special permission. And that requires a judge to rubber stamp that. That requires somebody in the system to say, okay. We don't make it easy. Let's get that out of our heads now. Because that's delusion. We don't make it easy. If you want to come to this country, if you want to come to the United States of America, the only people we make it easy on are the ultra rich that can afford that really, really fancy ass immigration lawyer and can claim that they're buying an entire TV station or radio station or newspaper. Mr. Murdoch. Oh, by the way, technically that bitch shouldn't have been able to buy that because in our country, you have to be a natural citizen in order to fucking buy it. But he managed to get the laws changed the years before that so that he could buy it as soon as he was a naturalized citizen. And some of you worship that news channel. But these people, the normal, average, everyday Joes like you and me, or even not like you and me, because let's be honest, if I know somebody that's immigrating, and I do know people that have immigrated to this country, they all started on a work visa that was paid for by a company. And they were here on that company visa, and then they decided they wanted to stay. I don't know why they wanted to stay. Some of them decided they wanted to stay because they liked it here. Most of my friends that are from Europe have returned. They got better health insurance. They think they have a better quality of life there. What the hell? And they're the reason some of you will say, oh, the American dream is dead. The American dream is dead because we don't want immigration in this country. That's why the American dream is dead. The fact Americans want to be paid $20 an hour to sweep up at Home Depot. That's why. The American dream isn't dead. The American dream is whatever you think it is. Middle, upper middle, upper middle, upper middle, lower middle, low middle. If you've watched that video, you know how ridiculous it is to assume in this country that immigration is a negative. This is an immigrant's country. You think it's that bad? Native Americans are the only ones of us that are the real thing. We need to figure out immigration in a positive way. And you can't do that when you're just screaming bullet points. And they're not even accurate. Like they're not. We're not talking real statistics. We're not talking real facts. We're talking nonsense. We are literally talking nonsense. The real number is 1 million people a year can legally enter this country. 1 million. And 30% of that is on work visas. And 600,000 of it, 60% of it is family. And have to be related to an actual American citizen. And sponsored by an actual American citizen. You gonna put your name on somebody you don't know? No, of course not. So in our country, only 10% of them, basically 13% maximum, are coming in on an asylum. 100,000. And as I stated at the very beginning of this, the courts can't handle the million. The courts can't handle it. The courts are processing right now about 700,000. Which means 300,000 from last year are still lingering around this year. And they will be the first ones done, obviously, but then we've got a cascade, and we're probably a couple of years behind. Right now, the last time I talked to somebody that was in the immigration process, it's a 3-year wait. 3 years. Oh, and for some of you that hear these guys go, they came in on a lottery ticket. No, they didn't. I promise you. Guess how many lottery tickets we do a year? Less than 50,000. All 50 states. Those lottery tickets are bought and paid for. You put in your money, and if you get it, you don't get their money back if you don't. But if you get picked, the lottery itself has more than 1 million people putting in for it every year for 50,000 slots. And that, ironically, is the only ones that stay in their country until they immigrate. Everybody else has to come here first. They don't get processed until they get here. Refugees are the only exception. They get processed on their way here, and then they're finished processing once they've gotten here. And refugees are a special case. But of course, we won't talk about that until we talk about the different types. Oh, and let me promise you, the shocking part for me was to find out there are more than a dozen different types. What the shit? Either you are or you aren't. Right? Oh, no. We have 1 million different categories for this shit just because we have to make it complicated. And why do we make it complicated? Oh, the history. If we go into the history, then we realize why it's so goddamn complicated. But what we have is we have people who think this is an automatic thing, that we're all automatically processing these people in, and all these people could get in if they just wait their turn. Well, that's not how we work. And again, if we say that we're supposed to process in somewhere between 5 and 15% for our economy to be stable and good all the time, 1 million is not even 1/10 of 1%. 1 million legal immigrants a year out of 330 million plus people, 336 million. Think about it. You can do the math yourself. I would promise you it's way below 1%. So if we need at least 5, what that tells you is most Americans don't know anybody overseas anymore. No shit. Name one that you know. Mostly only college educated. I'll be able to name a few. Most hourly people, most high school educated, they might say, oh, I knew this girl in high school. She was an exchange student. She went back to France. Okay. Truth of the matter is that we have to stop acting like immigrants are the negative that they are not. I'm sorry. We are not taking in enough to sustain our economy. We don't have enough Americans that want to work those low-paying jobs. And those jobs are important, whether you want to admit it or not. And because we don't want people we don't want to pluck chickens. We don't want to pick strawberries. We don't want to pick apples, for fuck's sake. We do it. We go and pay somebody if we live in the cities. I don't even live in a city. And I know people that go pay to go pick apples for a day with their kids to have that old farm fun. And I live more in a suburb, but I live in an area that's closer to rural than most people that consider them living in a suburb. We pay to go have fun doing it. We sure shit don't want to do it for a living at $7 an hour. Do you? No. So we need to understand immigration at more than just the screaming points of these idiots on TV. We need to understand the facts and make some decisions on our own on how we feel about immigration and what numbers we feel would be fair. Because 1 million a year is not doing it. And our clogged up court systems can't handle the 1 million a year. And if you say to yourself, well, that's more reason that we should shut it down. Again, the economy is not sustainable. Our biggest problem is the economy is not sustainable. We need to have a real conversation. We need to start those real conversations now.